All right. Welcome to episode 3 of Talkin Gimmicks. This is your host, Julio. Over on the other side of the country is a little under the weather version of Joey. Joey, what's up?
Hey, man. A lot of snow, cold weather.
Yeah, Joey's been hit hard with the snow up there. When I was telling him it's 82 degrees here in Houston, so that's how crazy our country is. This is number 3. I don't know if we thought we'd make it out this far. I think we're still lacking on the in terms of the fancy intros and stuff, but I like to consider ourselves like the backyard wrestling of podcasting. So that's it. Once we have time, we've already talked about doing a theme and doing some other stuff, but for now we just want to just go for it. It's nothing too difficult to just get on Google Hangouts and start talking some wrestling. So, week pretty slow in wrestling, Joey. We'll go over our weekly overview as to what went on in the world of wrestling. And we'll also it's been a slow week in toy spotting for us as well. I know, Joe, you were telling me about, your hunt for this week and how, your current situation up there is.
Yeah, it's pretty dry up here. I know we've had probably the same stuff we've had for close to 2 months. Just waiting for the new resets, which should be any day. So nothing new lately.
Yeah, like here in Houston, at least in the city, like we're late to getting stuff. I think like I mentioned in episode 1, the suburbs get things faster than we do. So I stopped at my local Walmart this weekend. They had the latest, the Elite series with like Sting and British Bulldog and all those guys. And I've already got the ones I want from that set. And they also had the basics with Finn Balor, but there was no Finn Balor. There was like 20 Big Shows and 15 Eric Rowans and stuff that I didn't care for. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of figures in Houston. I did pick up this guy right here, which is from the previous version of the previous series of basics. The Dean Ambrose with the Chase belt, which I haven't really seen. I know you have a lot of basics with the Chase basics with the title belt, but I haven't seen a lot of that here. Or maybe people get them pretty quick or not. I don't know, but this is the only time I've seen. And this was at a Target. They had 2 Dean Ambroses with belts, and I grabbed the one that had the nicer card. Because I'm an inside in the box, min on card kind of guy. But it's a pretty sweet fig. I'm digging the face scan. It's got his crazy look. It's got the DA sleeveless tee. He's just being crazy. And then I've seen pretty much everyone else on this. Like this until recently was the most current version of basics we got on the shelves. And I've seen all of these guys in the wild. But yeah, we're just slow, man. Houston's slow at getting figs, and I don't know why. Maybe I need to write a letter to Triple H.
Yeah, I know that depends on what area in Texas, but I know defining moments. Stone Cold's been hitting down there.
Yep, and that's an excellent segue, which was not planned. The gimmick of the week this week, we're going to talk a little bit about defining moments, which is one of the current sets. So it's a special set. They'll come out with maybe 2 a year, 2 different figures. We'll get into that a little bit later, but that's a pretty good segue. Stone Cold, the new Stone Cold's been hitting the shelves here in Texas, but like in weird places in Texas. So I don't know the logic behind that. But I believe he comes with the Smoking Skull title belt, and I think it's 3 title belts.
Yeah, there's 3.
Yeah, which ones are they? Just can you refresh my mind?
I believe the Winged Eagle,
the
Smoking Skull, and I'm really not too sure what the third one is right now.
Yeah, so that's kind of, if you guys see it out in the wild, it's a pretty good get. Defining Moments figures, I still see them. So, once they start hitting the shelves, you should be able to find them. So my recommendations: don't overpay, wait it out. But hey, that's really up to you. Then Joey, I know you got a little interesting gimmick for this week. I know it's been a slow week for you, toy hunting wise, but you found something pretty interesting, didn't you?
Well, just this bad boy here.
So that's the WWE Teeny Mates, which we've seen people. I've seen people in the toy hunting wrestling fair community open some of those on Twitter. It's an interesting little gimmick. I don't know, it hasn't drawn my attention. I know you wanted to grab one and see what they were like, so we'll open it and see what's in there, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, I've seen them. Never bought them before, but I figured I'd just grab something to open on the show, and there's actually some good chances of getting some pretty rare ones. Glow in the dark Undertaker. There's a crystal clear John Cena, alternate Macho Man, and a metallic gold Rock. So just hoping to get into one of those.
And that comes with 2, right?
Yeah, there's 2 in here, and then there's 2 little puzzle pieces, I guess. So it'll be worth a shot.
Well, let's check it out. You're gonna open it now or later?
Yeah, here we go. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's get through it. But yeah, they've come out with a lot of things like that. Oh, you know what? And I did buy something similar. I'll go grab it right now, which is kind of weird, similar to what you got, but it's a different.
Okay. Well, I believe this is Bret Hart.
Let me see. Yeah, that's Bret.
Okay, so that's a good first one. Okay. There's a puzzle piece. Not sure what to do with that. Another one. I'm not really sure. This one's in a bag. The other one wasn't, so I'm not sure.
Like a special.
I really can't tell who that is. Maybe you can. Possibly Daniel Bryan. I'm not sure. Looks more like AJ Styles, but I know that's not possible.
I think that's Daniel Bryan.
I think it is. I can't read the shirt. It's really small right now, so maybe I'll figure that out later and tweet it out. But looks to be Daniel Bryan and Bret Hart.
That's not bad. I mean, it's an interesting little gimmick. I think it's a fun little novelty to just grab a couple and see what you get kind of deal. But that's something you're going to keep buying or not?
Probably not. Maybe here and there, when it's a slow week like this week.
Yeah, they have another series which is like these little mini, but it comes with one. And I'll go grab it because I thought about it when you mentioned it.
Okay. Well, he goes and grabs that. Also in the show, we're going to talk about our retro wrestling episode of the week, WWF Saturday Night Main Event.
So I saw something like that, but I don't recall the name. I lost the pack, but I bought it on the same day I bought Dean Ambrose. And it's these little guys. They come in a similar, kind of like a blind booster type thing. I mean, it was kind of the same deal. I saw them just kind of in a box, and I'm like, yeah, I'll try it out. But I'm not a big fan of these like little figures. I think for like a little kid, it's like micro machines. If you had a ton of these and you do like Royal Rumbles and stuff, and you're actually playing with them,
yeah,
I think that'd be pretty sweet. But there's a ton of like weird WWE like collectibles that if they're hidden right there in that where all those baseball cards are at Target, like the dog tags and
yeah, there really is.
There's like these discs or something.
I think they have erasers too, or what?
Yeah, they have erasers, and now they're coming out with these little kind of like Hot Wheels. They haven't come out in stores, but I saw them on Twitter. Hot Wheels that have like The Rock and John Cena, and, like coming out of it, like all cartoony.
Okay.
So I mean, I think they do pretty well in terms of how they market, like to different people. Obviously, some of the stuff like that, like the teammates and these, they're for little kids. I'm assuming for the most part. And then some of the other figures, sure, kids will buy them, but like Defining Moments, which we'll see the packaging, and I think you've got some in the back. Those I think are really geared towards older collector types that remember Bret Hart was in Your House, Canadian Stampede, or Razor Ramon at WrestleMania and stuff like that. So I think they do a pretty decent job. And it's always fun to find like some of the weird stuff they have out there. So yeah, that was pretty much it for this week in toy hunting. Again, pretty slow, but next week we'll see what we have. I am thinking about getting some more Kinkuro cards because I'm addicted. Maybe that might be next week's gimmick. I'm not sure yet, but that's pretty much it for in terms of new gimmicks this week and things we've spotted. Moving on, we've got this week was also pretty kind of a slow week with just wrestling overall. Were you able to catch Raw this week?
Yeah, I caught most of it.
Give us the highlights because I kind of missed out on it. I was traveling.
There was Brie Bella Charlotte gimmick, teasing that match, for Fastlane this upcoming Sunday. AJ Styles Jericho setting that up for Fastlane, but it's actually AJ Styles versus Miz was the match.
I heard that was a pretty good match.
It was pretty good,
and I did catch part of that. I was in my hotel room and I did catch part of it. And I didn't mind it. I mean, I think Miz gets so much crap, but or maybe it's just AJ Styles being a good worker and bringing the best out of Miz. But
right,
I heard that was pretty decent. What else was this contract signing last week? No, like 2 weeks ago.
Other than that, the main thing was the Big Show main eventing and then doing the whole podcast with Stone Cold at the end, kind of gimmick, but which was okay.
It just feels like this Fastlane pay-per-view is kind of a throwaway, like just because they have to do something. I mean, I think they've hyped up the Ambrose versus Reigns versus Lesnar match pretty decently.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think they're at least I guess Royal Rumble it's its own thing, but I feel like this in between pay per view, like between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, has always been kind of right. I mean, they did the Elimination Chamber for a while, which at the beginning when that gimmick came out, it was awesome, and then it kind of got stale. It's a weird build-up with WWE right now. I think they're kind of going through a little bit of a lull with all the injuries and Bryan retiring and kind of transitioning new people, kind of the changing of the guard. Reminds me a little bit about mid '90s WWE when it went from the Bret Hart era to the Attitude Era. There was this like period in between, which was like we didn't really know what was going on, like what was the identity of the company, but I think that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, not too much more from Raw, but I mean, Fastlane, AJ Styles, Jericho should be pretty good. That's a third match between them two.
People have been talking smack about Jericho and that feud, but it's been pretty good. Like I've caught some of those matches, the Jericho AJ matches, and they've been pretty good. They work pretty well together. And I mean, Jericho, of course, he's not 1996 Jericho, but he still could, he can still go with certain people, and it's good to see he's gotten that nice build up with AJ.
Yeah, he likes to work with the guys that come in, and he definitely still could do all his moveset, that's for sure. So he hasn't lost anything. So
yeah, I did see him live at a house show, and that was pretty sweet. He still got the reaction. He came out with the jacket. He had it was an all right match with Alberto Del Rio. So I'm a big Jericho guy. He's one of my top ones, so I'm biased.
Yeah, he puts on good matches.
And then the other piece of news that came out of WWE this week was their Global Cruiserweight Showcase, which I am particularly very excited about.
Yeah, I know they teased it about 5 years ago. I feel like I heard it mentioned that they were going to do something like that once they got the network off the ground, and it should be real good with all the talent that's in that division.
Like, you've got a bunch of people down there. Manny Andrade, who is La Sombra, and I think Biff Busick tweeted out, the most dangerous 190-pound wrestler in the world.
Yeah.
You can maybe showcase guys like Adrian Neville and kind of have them go at it, a couple matches here and there. I mean, if you guys remember that WCW when they were bringing in all the cruisers and all the crazy stuff that they were doing with like Psychosis and Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko, that was a really good era of WCW. And if they can emulate that now with some of the crazy stuff, like they've got Rich Swann in NXT, and who we saw at King of Trios. Was it 2 years ago or last year?
I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. That he was on Rey de Voladores and AR Fox.
Yeah.
They were both there. Yeah. So you've got guys, you could throw Gargano in there. You've got really good guys, and maybe that can evolve into something like New Japan with junior heavyweights and the heavyweights or something like that. But I'm sorry, my dog is being annoying.
Yeah, there's a lot of good talent at that level.
That's the issue with live TV. My dog's barking up the storm over there. But anyways, yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of things they can do with a lot of talent. And they could bring in people from, CMLL and AAA and companies like that. So it broadens the possibility of my dog's going full heel right now.
Yeah, that's okay.
Anyways, so yeah, it broadens the possibility of what they can do, and hopefully, if it's anything like NXT, they'll probably nail it. So that'll be good to see. And and speaking of Lucha, another pretty decent. I mean, I don't know. We didn't rehearse this, but it feels rehearsed. Lucha Underground, which you hadn't watched in a couple weeks, right?
I haven't seen, but I actually ended up catching most of this episode this past week. So I know it's one of your favorites. So
what were your thoughts? I mean, I've watched it pretty much religiously since it started, but like you haven't really been following along. Kind of what you make of it.
It went well. It was actually a smooth show to take in. I mean, the segments and the interviews and the backstage stuff just is above the rest, in my opinion. Even just watching it here and there, just the quality, the production, and everything, and it's just real good. And the matches were really good. We'll talk about those.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before in like previous episodes, but it has, I think the reason I like it a lot, it's very cinematic. It's kind of like Chikara with a higher budget and a grittier story, because you've got these over the top characters and you've got things that like supernatural aspects and things that usually wouldn't fly in like a WWE or Ring of Honor or whatever. I mean WWE now, because they did some crazy angles back in the day with the Undertaker and Papa Shango, but it's really cool. It feels like to me like a gritty graphic novel come to life.
Yeah, it's definitely entertaining. I know Jack Evans commented about that. That's why he enjoys it, is because it's kind of like a comic book come to life. And
yeah, Jack Evans he's pretty cool. I dig me some Jack Evans.
Yeah, definitely.
So first match of the night. Well, they started with I think it was a Katrina and Eva Lee segment.
Yeah.
And it's very cinematic. As you guys may or may not know, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched season 1, Katrina's running the temple. Eva Lee's comes in and saying she wants a rematch for the trios titles, which is another thing that I absolutely love about that show, is that they have trios titles. Being a big Chikara fan and a big fan of King of Trios, why wouldn't I love that? So she comes in, they have a little bit of an argument, and then Katrina tells her she needs to prove her worth and puts her in a match that same night against Chavo Guerrero and Cortez Castro and Cisco, which was, what did you think about that match being kind of your first action in Lucha Underground?
That was a pretty good match. Son of Havoc we've seen at Chikara King of Trios, which comes up pretty often around here. It was
So
him,
yeah,
Angelico, and Eve Lease, right? Or I believe it
yeah,
was.
yeah,
Okay. Versus Chavo and the crew. Angelico's really impressive. It was a good match. I mean,
yeah, yeah. And Helico he's crazy, dude. Like you need to catch up in season one, but he did some crazy spots in season one, like jumping off that little office rooftop into the ring and like
okay.
cross-bodying a dude or stuff like that. Like he was doing some crazy spots. I think right now he's currently hurt, but it's nothing too bad. I think he was supposed to be back in April or something. But I mean, it was a solid little match. Eva Lee, Son of Havoc, and Angelico beat Chavo and Cortez and Chavo and his group. And then there was a little spat between Chavo and his guys, and then Tejano ran out. And you know, for those not familiar with Tejano, he was around a little bit in season one, but he's also kind of one of the big names down in AAA in Mexico. And you know, the dude, he's got an interesting persona. It's kind of like a Mexican cowboyish type guy. His name is Tejano, and he has like a lasso. There was a pretty cool segment last week of him throwing down at a bar with some dudes and just messing them up with a lasso and having a beer and whatnot. But you know, it was a good little match. I think with Lucha Underground, they packed so much in the span of an hour. You know,
Yeah, it's a lot of content in that 1 hour, but it's definitely put together well.
and then from there we have a little backstage segment with none other than Officer Joey Ryan, which you know, I think it's a welcome addition. He's a very colorful character, and he's playing an undercover cop with along with Castro, and they talk a little bit of crap, and you know, Jerry Ryan talks about, you know, watch how it's done, and you know, here's one gripe I have with Lucha Underground, and they've done this 2 weeks now. Like they'll have a vignette building up a dude, like they built up PJ Black, uh, who for those, I mean, most people probably are familiar with him in his WWE as Justin Gabriel. But you know, they built him up in this really badass scene, and he's fighting some dudes, and he's like with his motorcycle gear and whatnot. And then the next week, he comes in, fights the Mac, Willie Mack, and loses. So like, didn't you just like spend 2 minutes, 3 minutes giving him a really cool vignette, and then he comes in and loses? And then they did the same thing. Like they built up Joey Ryan, they built him up, and then like his first match is against Cage, who
Yeah,
is looking like he's looking beastly nowadays.
who's a monster.
And we all knew, like once they said Cage against Joe Ryan, we knew, you know. I will say Vampiro and Stryker did a good job in pointing out that Joey Ryan was the first one that made, you know, Cage look like he was hurt and yada yada yada. But it's the second week where they build up a guy and then they have him come in and lose. So I don't know what's the end game there or what the purpose is, but like I guess from a normal booking standpoint, it's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like they're giving him the right push, you know, if you're gonna build them up and then just kind of break them down. So maybe it'll work out in the future for those guys, but not such a good start.
So we get into the match, and you know Ryan, you know it's kind of the typical, you know, monster versus like the sneaky heel type, and Ryan comes in playing up his, you know, sleazy persona, and you know Ryan got some pretty good offense, but you know Cage took him out, you know, and it was in, you know, it was a pretty short match. It was like 5 minutes, I think. So you know it was weird the way they did, you know, Joey Ryan made his debut, but it did feel rushed to me.
Yeah.
And then after that, we had, so there's some beef with Johnny Mundo, and he comes in, and they expanded that storyline coming in and attacking Cage, and Cage, well, you know, counters and hits Weapon X, and that was it for Mundo, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So something will be in the future between those guys, I'm sure.
So far at this point in the show, like I know you've heard a lot of stuff, but how do you compare like Lucha Underground to, let's say, Chikara, or maybe it's its own thing, but like what was your impression so far, like being someone relatively new to the show?
I guess just interesting, different from what I've really seen so far, I guess it's about all I can really say. It just stuck out, than your average show, which is good. It kept my interest, which is good.
So then they kept pushing the next little vignette. They keep pushing this angle of Rey Mysterio and Dragon Azteca, like training and uh, building up that storyline about Dario Cueto's dad coming to Mexico and wanting to find the descendants of the seven Aztec tribes. And kind of Rey Mysterio and Dragon Azteca have their own little agenda. Uh, Kind of saying, yeah, we need to unite the seven tribes. So I don't know. I really don't know what that angle is. I know both of them will eventually be in action in the ring. But it's cool. I will say, one of the best things Lucha Underground does is build up those like side storylines with the videos. Like that keeps me coming back for more. Even though the action in the ring is pretty decent and at times really really good. It's just the storylines. Like it's the same for me. Like with companies like Chikara. Some people might say, well, Chikara, it's not New Japan or Ring of Honor. They'll talk about the in ring action, but it's the storylines that really hooks me.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to jump into something like that, and it's kind of where do you begin with Chikara or Lucha Underground, but you just got to dive in and just be open to stuff. That's the thing.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point about things like Lucha Underground, Chikara. And especially Chikara, but I think it does apply to an extent to Lucha Underground. Is like you jump in, and so much happened in season one, and there's a lot of callbacks to season one, stuff that happened in season one, and I agree, it's the same. Like you just have to jump in. I know we'll eventually do something, a Chikara special, no pun intended. A show just kind of based on Chikara, but it's one of Chikara is a very daunting. For someone who's never seen Chikara, it can be kind of intimidating
Oh yeah.
with like so much that's happened and so many storylines. And where do I begin? So I think Lucha Underground is building that lore too. It's still, you're still good enough to jump in, but there's a lot that's happened. So at this point, they kind of start hyping up next week's main event, which is Cage, thinking about Mortal Kombat versus Johnny Mundo. That's next week's main event. But then this week's main event was kind of a big dream match for a lot of people. You had Pentagon Jr. and Prince Puma. What do you think about that match in particular, and kind of the two styles and all that good stuff?
That was a good match. That was my first time, I think, seeing Pentagon Jr. So
Seriously.
I think it might have been my first time actually seeing him. I've heard a lot about him. I've seen pictures of him, a little bit of footage, but as far as like my first match, I think that's the first one. I mean, it's got a hell of a look. Definitely interesting character, and Prince Puma. I mean, there's really not too much to say about him. Everyone knows how good he is. So it was a hell of a match.
Yeah, I think there were some pretty good spots, pretty good action. I mean, Pentagon Jr. is just super over. I think anywhere he goes nowadays, and you brought, like you mentioned, it's the look. Like the dude stands out, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He just looks like a star, in my opinion.
I know he's going to be working AIW. I think next month, actually in Cleveland. Pretty sure. So
Yeah, I think he did that, and I think he did AAW, like up
okay.
in like Chicago. He's a guy that if you need to go back and watch some season one, but he has this. So they did it. kind of a death match in season 1. And I'm not gonna, get into too many spoilers for you, Joey, but he's in it, and there's like light tubes, and it's kind of crazy. It's really good. I'm not a deathmatch guy by any means, but the way they built it up and the way they tie it back into the story is awesome. So, I think Pentagon. So two of the most over guys at Lucha Underground go at it. They're hitting a lot of their signature moves. Puma takes a backstabber from Pentagon, and it ends up with kind of a weird ending where Pentagon Jr. hits him with a package pile driver, and then he goes for the surfboard, but Puma kind of falls on his back and gets his shoulders up for the pin. It's a weird ending. Pentagon thinks he won. Puma thinks he won. So they were really, it was weird, but it was smart to, two dudes that are so over. None of them taking, the loss there. I think it helps them keep building that rivalry, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, none of them, none of the dudes go over. Then Pentagon gets, pretty pissed off, attacks Puma, is about to, he goes for that signature of him, kind of his signature thing, and Lucha Underground, which is breaking people's arms, which is kind of crazy, but that's his thing. He's broken Mil Muertes' arm. He's taken a lot of dudes out with that, but Puma's able to escape, right?
Yeah, that's good. Good thing you're would have got a broken arm.
So they had the little mini brawl. Like I said, they teased that little arm breaking gimmick, and then Puma escapes. So they leave it open ended. They leave it for a subsequent match that I'm pretty sure is going to be some sort of gimmick match. Which Lucha Underground, they like their gimmick matches in Lucha Underground, which I'm all for. I don't care. And then, as usual, it ends with a little segment. We've got Sexy Star trying to run away from where she's captive, and then Mac finds her, Willie Mac, and she tells him that Marty the Moth, is trying to get her or whatever. Like Marty the Moth was the one who held her captive. So Mac's obviously pissed, but then she says that it wasn't him, it was her, and kind of points to the camera, kind of leaving it like a cliffhanger type ending. So we have no idea. There's probably going to be some crazy lady wrestler with a pretty crazy gimmick who is supposedly the one who's like tearing people to pieces. So it's a good little ending. I think it leaves it. They're good at making you want more, and that's what they did this week. But yeah, I mean, Lucha Underground for me is I enjoy it almost every week. This week was not really an exception. And I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen next week with that whole storyline and with Cage versus Mundo. So overall impressions, Joey, are you going to go back to watch Lucha Underground? Are you done with it? What's your take?
I'll go back next week and give it a shot. Yeah, I liked it.
We need to do a series of catching you up to Lucha Underground.
Yeah, one of these days I'll have to sit down.
I don't know if that's on like. I don't think it's on any of the streaming services. I might be mistaken.
We'll have to do some research.
Cool. So that was it for kind of what we've watched this week. I know there's some stuff. I've got SmackDown on my DVR. Mauro Ranallo isn't on it, so I don't know if I even want to watch it. And then we have the pay-per-views, the New Japan, Ring of Honor, Honor Rising, not pay-per-views, but events in Japan, which a lot of people stayed up late last night to watch them. I did not. Had to go to work, and I also went to get my Fire Emblem Fates games at a midnight release, so I decided to wait for New Japan. So I'll probably watch it and kind of give it an overview. I'm a little behind on New Japan. I think I'm being a bad New Japan fan, but it is what it is. I think I'll eventually catch up. You anything else for you wrestling wise in terms of action this week, Jerry?
Not too much. No, I didn't get a chance to watch SmackDown, and other than Raw and Lucha, and the Fastlane pay-per-view coming up this upcoming Sunday. That's about it, really.
Oh, just one last piece of kind of news, which is the whole story, the Wade Barrett story about him leaving WWE. Which I'm not, and I've kind of suspected it that he's going to move on. Like they haven't done anything with him of value, and I mean, maybe he'll go on do Ring of Honor. There's so much stuff he can do, New Japan, other indies. So, what's your take on that?
If he feels like he's not being used properly, I can't blame him. I wouldn't want to resign either. So, I mean, he's a good talent. They got so many guys there that they don't know what to do with half of them. So,
Yeah, I mean, the dude's got a good look, and he's got an interesting persona, but they give him a couple of big pushes, but never really, that was about it, right?
yeah, the whole King thing, there's really no like benefit of being that. It's not like it gave him a real. I don't think it gave him a title shot, did it? It was just kind
I
of like
don't.
you wear the crown and just kind of walk around. That's about it.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the old school version of that, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Which we'll talk a little bit about in our retro wrestling episode, which did involve a king. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, pretty much, just a lot of in-ring action this week. Not a lot of outside of wrestling type news, which for the most part is usually good because outside news is usually bad stuff. Uh, unless it's people moving companies, which is always interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the in ring. And then I think now we'll move on to our gimmick of the week, which, in my opinion, is the best figure series that's going. I know there might be debates on that, but I think Defining Moments is the best figure series.
Presentation wise, I agree.
Yeah, like I'm all, I think most of you guys out there know we're both, we like to keep our figures in its packaging, mint on card type collectors, and they have some of the best presentation, the best packaging and presentation of what's out there today. So tell us a little bit about Joe, Defining Moments, kind of what the concept is, all that fun stuff.
Well, Defining Moments basically takes like one major defining moment from that guy's career, and they basically make a figure out of it. So, I mean, here's one for example: a Razor Ramon. You can see it here with the title, with all the gold chains. He began making waves in '92 after the debut, The Bad Guy. And the ladder match with Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 10. Basically, it's just a defining moment for them. The packaging, you can see the gold chains in the background here based on Razor Ramon. The back there also. And you can see it highly detailed compared to the basics or the elites are good, but these are just a step above. The way they're curved also, I feel,
Yeah.
makes them
And
look real nice.
is that usually on the back of the Defining Moments, and I have the razor here too, it usually says what that moment was.
I'm trying to
Right?
see.
I think this was WrestleMania 10. Because it doesn't really outright say it, but it says that biggest defining moment was winning the
Okay.
Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 10 in that ladder match, which is a classic against Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't say exactly which moment, but I'm pretty sure that's probably what it is. Because looking at the Sting too, I have a Sting also. Let's see, face paint there. This is basically, I believe, for the Starrcade match of 1997 WCW against Hulk Hogan. Sting finally got his wish, catching Hogan in the Scorpion Deathlock. So that would be his defining moment. You have some of these also, right?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of to keep talking a little bit about the series, there's a lot. Like, it started in 2010, I think, was the first release of Defining Moments. And I wasn't collecting back then, but we just look at the lineup of some of the guys that are out. There's Macho Man Randy Savage, Shawn Michaels, Ultimate Warrior, Rock, Triple H, Ricky Steamboat. There's a Steve Austin, not the current one, but another previous version. Undertaker, Bret Hart, John Cena, Ric Flair. It goes, it keeps going, and it's really cool. And I'll kind of share with you a couple of the ones I have. That, we kind of looked at this in episode 1, which is my prized possession. This is Bret Hart Defining Moments, and you guys can tell, like I guess cost savings. The packaging is a lot smaller now. I mean, they still maintain the same concept, but it's a lot smaller. So we've got Bret Hitman Hart. I believe this guy came out in 2011, 2012. This is from 1997, July 6th, Canadian In Your House Canadian Stampede, and it was a match with Bret and the Hart Foundation, which is Bulldog, Brian Pillman, Owen Hart, which, if you guys remember back in this time frame, this was kind of just right before the Attitude Era, which for me was a really good story, really good angle with the Hart Foundation in Canada versus USA. I mean, it's funny because Canadians have this reputation of being really nice, but we had these Canadian guys who were booed in the States, but they'd go to Canada and they were received like heroes. And they went up against Steve Austin, Ken Shamrock, Goldust, and the Legion of Doom. And at the end of the match, the Hart Foundation wins, and their families get on into the ring, and it's pretty crazy. But as you guys can tell, going back to the figure, lots of detail. You got the Hitman shades, you got the Hart Foundation jacket, and it says Hitman on there. The Canadian flag, and you've got the winged eagle title belt. So it's really, and they come with I don't know if the new ones do. Well, I don't think the new ones do, but the older ones, they'd come with a little stand, a WWE stand on there. I don't open these, but I don't know if you guys can tell there. Probably not. There's a little gold WWE plastic stand that Bret Hitman Hart comes in. It's a really, I think this is the definitive Bret Hart figure. Like, they've come out with a lot, but I think this is the best one. And it's just because of the level of detail these guys come with and the accessories that they come with. Even the jacket, like, it's not one of those like dingy plastic jackets. It's made of like a pleather kind of deal, but it's really good. So, and I know a lot of the older defining moments are going for a pretty penny on eBay, like 60, 70, around that kind of money. Like, I still got in on this Bret Hart, and I paid like $35 maybe 2 years ago. Kind of right after King of Trios 2014, I started. So yeah, I've got him, and then the other defining moment, I've got Sting and Razor, and then I've got Hulk Hogan, which
Nice.
the newer ones, what they are doing, and you pointed it out, like Razor has the gold chains in the back, and you get to see a little Razor Ramon vest, which is pretty badass. The older ones didn't have that. They just had the little detail as to what happened, and that was that. But yeah, I've got Hulk Hogan, and in the back you guys can see they had the torn classic Hulk Hogan T-shirt. He comes with that '80s heavyweight championship belt, and then on the back it talks a little bit about WrestleMania 3, as being his defining moment. You've got the little Hulk Hogan panels on the sides. I mean, I've seen some collectors have them just like on their sides like this. I mean, it still wouldn't look bad if you're in a space crunch, but I mean, if you're going to display any figure, I think these are the ones you need to display.
Yeah. I got one more myself. Undertaker, which you see pretty much everywhere on the shelves right now until the Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out. This one actually has the defining moment clearly written right on there, so this is a little bit different. The other ones aren't as obvious, but defining moment, March 29th, 1999. WrestleMania 15, heated rivalry, Undertaker, Mr. McMahon. The Hell in a Cell match. Big Boss Man, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell. I mean, you can see it's clearly the detail on the actual figure itself. The back. Undertaker logo there.
Yeah, like the packaging for that Undertaker is really cool. I like the figure. I'm not a big Undertaker guy, so that's why I'm probably not going to buy it. But yeah, I think it is a good buy. I think there are, like you said, there's plenty of them out there, and I still see some. Occasionally, I'll see like stains out there.
Yeah, I actually see Hulk and Razor even out there still.
So I don't. It may be one of those things that they either they've ramped up their production, so you see more of them out there. But I think if any, it's a series that'll you'll at least be able to keep its value, if not more. There's some series like now you go back and look at some of the, the before the Jacks, they had a lot of those like weird. I don't even know what they were. Yeah, there were Jacks, and then there were some weird ones out there that are like dirt cheap, like mid '90s, early '90s. Figures, WWE figures that are dirt cheap. I think these will definitely, over time, keep or increase value. Like even Bret Hart. If we do just a quick eBay, let's do a quick eBay just to see what are some of these guys going for. Yeah, like Ric Flair, you can still find at a decent price. They're selling the new Stone Cold Steve Austin for $50 on eBay. $40.
Yeah.
40 is what I see.
See the price of the, I know it's not a defining moment, but the Demon Baylor Elite, what that's going for on eBay right now?
No, how much?
Like minimum 60, 65, 80. Yeah. I mean, it'll hit stores eventually. It's just got to have patience for retail. That's the thing.
Yeah, there's John Cena going for like $36, $35 in its package. There's the Survivor Series Undertaker defining moments, which he's going for like about 80. Ricky Steamboat, $55. So yeah, Bret Hart, 140.
Unsigned, right?
Unsigned. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of these have kept their value for sure. If not have increased. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin, complete out of box, $60. the previous Stone Cold, not the current one. So I would recommend if you guys see them, pick them up. They're great to collect if you want to look at for value. I think these are some of the ones that'll maintain their value. Yeah, Bret Hart, $100 for another Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I mean, the way I think about it is most lines are 6 to 8 figures per line, but there's literally one at a time, So once they're gone, they're pretty much gone.
mm-hmm.
That's basically why they end up being worth money. So yeah, I mean, if you do see them in the wild, definitely grab them, especially the Stone Cold Steve Austin with the 3 titles. Grab as many of those as you can.
I have a feeling that Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to be like the next Bret Hart of the Defining Moment series, which I think will be rare because, like you said, I think a lot of people are going to buy multiples to open and to keep and then to resell or whatever. So I'm definitely trying to at least get one. I'm not in the resale business because I'd be there. We don't get a lot to start with to resell here. So yeah, definitely. I think best series out there. I think these are the coolest. These are the best figures you can get right now in terms of detail, in terms of quality. The only bad thing, like you said, or it could be a good thing, that they come out one at a time. But yeah, don't sleep on these. And even some of the ones, the older ones on eBay, that are going for like 30 something bucks. I'd get in on that if like the John Cena. If you're a big John Cena fan,
yeah,
that's a good one to get. The Ric Flairs are still easy to get, and they come with the sweet robe. So yeah, definitely jump in on these because I think these will be harder to find, especially mid. So that's pretty much it for the gimmick of the week. Before we wrap up, what's your favorite one from the series?
That I have, or the whole series in general?
That you have the whole series in general.
My friend has the Macho Man. I don't know if it's the WrestleMania
That's
3. It's like silver and purpley one.
Yeah,
I think it might be. My friend has that one, and that might be my favorite one.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
That is a nice one.
I might have to eBay that Macho Man after the show and try to see if I can find them for a decent price.
I take it yours is the Brett, or
yeah. I mean,
yeah, it has to be.
It has to be like it's definitely not just the fact that Bret Hart signed it, and I didn't. He signed it. I went to like a meet and greet thing, but I think he's my favorite of all time, and I think that's the best one in my opinion. I'm still hoping out. If I were to choose, so let's play kind of fantasy Mattel worker. If you were to pick a defining moment that you'd want to see made into a figure, which wrestler and which moment would it be?
Oh, jeez. Put me on the spot here right in the episode.
Yeah, that's what we do. You got to put you on the spot.
It's tough because I mean the one I'm thinking is kind of like more of a current guy, but they almost kind of made that with the Seth Cashes in figure.
That was one like, and I know I had talked about that. I've talked about it on Twitter several times that I would love to see a defining moment Seth for the WrestleMania with the white ear and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I think that would be cool. But if I had to pick a moment, I think they need to do like, I mean, they own the rights for WCW. They already did a Sting. I think I don't know if Hulk Hogan will ever be back in WWE's good graces. I think he will, but I think I'd love to see a defining moment Hollywood Hogan.
Okay, yeah, that'd be sweet.
Other than the Seth Rollins, because I 100% agree with you. Like I think that needs to happen, but just for the sake of picking something different, a defining moment Hollywood Hogan would be pretty epic. And I know they were before the Hulk Hogan scandal. They were coming out. I think it might have been a defining moment or an elite Hulk Hogan, NWO Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah, it was supposed to be something, but I'm pretty sure they scrapped it because of what happened. But hopefully he comes back around and they can do something like that in the future. That'd be good.
Yeah, 'cause that some of my, some of my there's they scrapped a production of the Hollywood Hogan defining moments, which is extremely sad.
Yeah.
But Hulk Hogan he screwed that one up. But that would have been a pretty cool figure to have. I know Hulk Hogan said and did what he did, but some of my favorite figures are like those NWO, uh, WWE classics, Outsiders and Hulk Hogan, all that stuff. So there's that. All right, so that does it for the gimmick of the week. So now we're moving on to our weekly dive into the archives of the WWE Network. Retro wrestling. Joey, what did we have this week? I know this was your pick.
Yes, my pick, retro wrestling. We kind of threw it back. I was 3 years old when this hit live. WWF Saturday Night's Main Event, May 1989. Definitely old, but definitely pretty classic. Classic show, that's for sure.
So I mean, WWE Saturday Night Main Event for those younger people in the audience it was a special that they'd air and they would air this on like NBC, right? It was like on it wasn't on cable, it was on national TV, if I recall correctly.
I think so.
So that was kind of like the thing. It was they'd air on national TV. It kind of, I think they ran an hour long, if I'm not mistaken, back in the day.
Yeah.
And it would always be, it was kind of something outside of the norm. What we usually would get back in the day, which was some of those weird shows where they do kind of squash matches and whatnot. So which Saturday Night Main Event was this? Because I know you picked it, Joe. This was one out of 1989, correct?
Yeah, it was May 1989.
Right, cool. So it starts off hot and heavy with Hulk Hogan behind the classic blue steel cage, cutting one of his classic Hulk Hogan, what you can do, brother, promos. Which I was all in. Once that started, I'm like, all right, I'm all in. And then parentheses, I am a sucker, as I mentioned, for late 80s up until mid 90s WWE, because it was colorful, big characters, big personalities. And it's a theme of this episode. It's like superheroes almost. As a kid, seeing these guys larger than life, all that stuff. So we get to this promo of Hulk Hogan, pretty much telling him how he's going to kick Big Boss Man's ass and Slick and whatnot. It was good for me. That hooked me. What do you think about that?
That was definitely good. I mean, they opened it up, right, with him, like you were saying, right behind the traditional blue steel cage. And he was fired up. He was Hulk Hogan, and he was definitely talking about the Big Boss Man. He's going to kick his ass left and right. So definitely hooked me, drew me right in. The theme song was definitely funny. I laughed at that. And it was a good start.
And that was Mean Gene interviewing him, right?
Yeah.
Mean Gene, I miss Mean Gene. And there's going to be a Build-A-Figure Mean Gene with all those the new Seth Rollins and some of those new ones, from what I read today.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of that. That looks like it should be pretty good.
With the old school like WWE Blazers, so that should be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we open up with that, and with segues into Vince McMahon, who was back in the day, he was one pretty good color commentator, and Jesse the Body Ventura. They were the guys calling the action. They were in Des Moines, Iowa. Of course, Jesse the Body Ventura playing up the heel commentator, Vince kind of playing, the normal face commentator. And, they hype it up. They sell it to you pretty early that there's 3 championship matches in this event. And, it's all in right there. So what kicked off the show?
The opening matchup was it Rick Rude versus let's see here. Yeah, Rick Rude versus Hacksaw? Jim Duggan?
King Hacksaw.
King Hacksaw, Jim Duggan, with the crown that he recently did he win it or take it from Haku, I believe?
Yeah, he beat Haku for the crown.
Okay.
And I think that's what we were talking about earlier. I think back in the day it was just more of a you're the king, because there was King Macho and King Haku and King Hacksaw. But I don't know if that really entailed anything other than
that. Yeah, I'm not sure. So it opened up with them two. Rude with Heenan.
He was part of the Heenan family at this point.
This is true.
And the crowd,
Continental champion.
This is what I love about this time frame in wrestling is, now that we're living in this era where everyone knows everything, and there's a lot of smarks out there. But this comes in, Hacksaw gets that pop, and Rick Rude is just getting some massive heat. So there's clearly clearly defined good guy versus bad guy. And the crowd knows it, and the crowd's all for it. I think, that's one of the things I miss from that era of wrestling that we really don't see as much anymore.
No, that's true. The crowds were real hot back then, that's for sure.
Like we saw that even in the some of the Nitro and some of the other retro wrestlings we've done with the crowd. Well, I'm not counting WCW. I'm sorry, ECW. But the WCW crowds and this WWE crowd, they were crazy for it. It was a fairly entertaining match. I'm not going to lie.
It was pretty good. I mean, Bobby the Brain Heenan being in his corner, and I mean, Rude is the IC champion at the time. It was a pretty entertaining match.
I think part of it was the crowd getting so into it, and it wound up being a weird ending because Hacksaw goes for the the 3-point stance, just mauls Rick Rude with a clothesline, and Rick Rude falls to the outside, and they start counting him out. They start the count out, and Hacksaw celebrating, and he wins, but he doesn't win the title. But he's celebrating. I mean, I didn't get it. I don't know. What did you think about that? Because that was weird as hell for me.
Yeah, no, that was real weird. I was clueless. I mean, he didn't win the title. I know. One funny part of that match was when Hacksaw was up on the top rope and he came down with a right hand from the top, and Vince McMahon called it a high risk maneuver. So that made me pop pretty hard. Just high little risk. Simple things back then. Everything was so high risk back then. It just kind of makes me laugh now. With what the guys are doing today. So.
Yeah, high risk maneuver. The standards have changed from a flying, fist from Hacksaw Jim Duggan to some of stuff like the Phoenix Splash and stuff like that some of those dudes are doing.
Exactly.
So Hacksaw wins. He celebrated. Even Vince McMahon was kind of celebrating, and Jesse Ventura kind of had a rain on everyone's parade and said, guys, don't be stupid. He won, but he didn't win the title. So it was a fairly entertaining match. I'm a Rick Rude guy. I think Rick Rude was a good character, a good heel. So I think it was a good match. I think it was a good way to start it. So the next match, just kind of a throwaway singles match between Macho Man Randy Savage with Sensational Sherry. This is when he had transitioned away from Elizabeth against Jim Neidhart. Which was, it was this. I didn't really. It was okay. This is an okay match to me.
Yeah, there wasn't too much to take from that match. I mean,
kind of
the Anvil promo going into it was a little goofy, you know, which makes me think like I guess I didn't really realize how goofy he was. I don't know if I don't
you
know.
know what
Obviously, he's playing the character, but
what came to my mind was Hugh Morris.
okay,
You
yeah,
remember Demott when he was in WCW and he had that character that would stick out his tongue and just start laughing in between promos and stuff.
yeah,
It reminded me of that. The match was meh. What made me pop was the Macho Man with his flying elbow and the entrance. I think that
yeah,
was the best part was, Macho Man, the flying elbow. That's just classic. That's classic, wrestling. I think if aliens were ever to come to Earth and they're like, hey, show me some classic wrestling, I'm going to show them a clip of Macho Man Randy Savage just dropping the flying elbow. I think that's what I would show them.
yeah. No, on the promo, the Macho promo was intense. You know, I mean, just I don't think since then there's been a character that's as intense as him. You know, he just literally you could see it. You know, his veins coming out of his neck, and he's in character, and he means business.
Yeah, I think him and Hulk Hogan are two of the most intense promo cutters ever.
Yeah,
I like them both. I think I don't think anyone does that anymore, right? Like cutting that kind of intense. I think Ryback maybe a little bit.
yeah, maybe a little, but since those guys, I mean, there hasn't been too many guys that are really that captivating. You know.
Yeah, those guys are over. There was just some intense, so intense, dude. So he cuts his promo. It's a great promo, talking smack about Elizabeth and how Sherry, is getting it done, yada yada. And then the hyped up title match happens at the midpoint of the show. This is where I got really confused, and I thought there was something wrong with my WWE network.
I thought somebody looped mine ahead or something. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened.
I thought like something weird had happened because I'm like, all right, main event time. That went by fast. I'm like, wait, no. But it happened to that's how they kind of filmed it or laid it out. It was Hulk Hogan against Big Boss Man with Slick, who Slick, his theme is timeless because that's also Hakeem the African Dreams theme. Yes. So they come out. It's a pretty decent pretty decent exchange. They do have a spot in there that kind of surprised me, which was that suplex off the top of the cage.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That was definitely a high risk maneuver there.
Yeah, like I didn't, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a lot of what they were doing before that, where trying to shove each other into the blue steel cage and stuff like that. Kind of, it was an okay match. That was a really good spot, and Hulk goes over, right?
Yeah, Hulk went over. I know they were kind of battling, trying to escape. You know, I think Boss Man was trying to escape the door. Same time Hulk was trying to go over the top of the cage. Um, Hulk goes over. Boss Man was handcuffed. Hogan escaped.
Yeah, the Slick tried to get involved, and Hulk Hogan took the handcuffs, cuffed Boss Man. Very four horseman type move, and he escapes. And then he chases Slick around, and I think he takes Slick out, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then
Took Slick right out.
he's just doing some weird shit. Like he has Slick's little hat, his Kangol hat, and he takes the Big Boss Man the nightstick, and he kind of holsters it in his sights, which is weird as hell. But okay match. Still, I think at this point the best match of the night was the first one, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we move on to a Brainbusters and Bobby Heenan promo. which their time at WWE was kind of weird because they were so good, but I think they won the titles once or twice maybe in WWE.
Definitely once. I know. I don't know about any more than that.
So they go ahead and they cut their promo with Bobby Heenan. They're part of the Bobby Heenan family, and they take on Demolition, Axe, and Smash. Which I'm sorry.
No, obviously, who are pretty big guys. Now that you're kind of looking back at them.
Yeah, they were pretty. And Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard aren't small by any means, but they
No.
did look smaller than Demolition. So, what was your take on that match, Joey?
Well, first, I want a Brainbuster jacket somehow. If we can maybe make those somehow and maybe get those back.
I know,
going.
dude. I tweeted that when I was watching it that I want a Brainbuster because I saw they had the logos. I'm like, why don't I have one of those jackets? I think I need one of those jackets in my life.
Yeah, those are sweet. It was a pretty good match. A lot of heel work early from the Brainbusters. Heenan gets taken out. The crowd was real red hot, man. For that match. The moves,
Yeah,
I just remember seeing the moves were real simple. I mean, the simplest thing, the crowd would pop real hard because it was a different time. But hey, I kind of like it.
yeah, I think it's cool. Like, I mean, now I feel like people are so hard to be impressed by something. Back in the day, like a suplex or a body slam, you know. And I guess I understand it's the evolution of things. It's the same way. You're not going to react to playing, Super Nintendo. Playing Super Mario Brothers on NES versus playing, Mass Effect. It's. I understand the cycle of things, but it's always good to go back and look at how people reacted in those times, and it's interesting. It's cool. So that match ends with Brainbusters going over due to disqualification. Correct?
Yeah, Demolition threw the ref.
Right.
Threw the ref out of there. So Brainbusters win by DQ. Demolition retains the tag titles.
So no title changes at this point. Rick Rude kept his even though he lost. Hogan kept his by beating Big Boss Man, and Demolition keep theirs because they won by disqualification. Then we get to the main event, which is Boris Zukov versus Superfly Jimmy Snuka, which was a super squash match.
Super fly squash match. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I don't know what the hell that was, but yeah.
that was like such a weird ending to the show. And I don't know, maybe the people who laid it out thought it was a good idea. But at the point Superfly was wrestling, I kind of lost interest in the show because all the title matches had already happened. So I'm like, who cares?
Yeah, that should have been the opener, if any.
I
Or
really,
maybe the second match.
I really didn't even pay much attention to that last match. I know Zukov was cutting a promo, then Superfly comes out and just took him out like in a minute.
It was literally a minute or two. Yeah, I don't remember much more than that. I know we just took him out with the basically like the Superfly finisher gimmick, and then it was literally over with. Not too
So
much excitement there.
the show I think overall, okay, it's an hour. It started off pretty good, and then it just kind of once the Hogan match happened, it was just downhill. Even the Brainbusters and Demolition, it was I was kind of not really into after watching the Rick Rude match and Macho Man and the Hulk Hogan match. But I don't know. I would suggest to the people that for just go back and watch the first half. If you can
Yeah,
catch it, the first half and Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, and The Rick Rude match, you're good. You don't miss out anything after that. I mean, the Brainbusters are cool, but whatever. And then that Superfly match was just a waste. But yeah, I guess that's what you get with the older stuff. You get kind of a mixed grab bag. But I think after the 3 weeks of the Talking Gimmicks Retro Wrestling, I think maybe the ECW TV might have been my favorite.
It might be. Yeah. I mean, you get hit or misses with these. You never know. I mean, looking back, I'm just kind of pulling them out of a hat and hoping we get something good. So, I mean, my favorite part from this show, honestly, could be the commentary. Just some of the little quirky things they were saying, and just like some shit like that, and even the Pier 6 brawl, just that mentioned, and how the match turned into that at the end. So, other than that, I mean, there's not too much to remember. Like you're saying, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, classic characters, even Hacksaw, Demolition. Because I mean, you got to figure these guys still. Some of those guys are still working on the indie scene today. Demolition, I seen a couple years ago at a local show. Hacksaw, same thing.
Dude,
So,
that's crazy, man. Like,
yeah,
that is crazy. But
it is.
yeah, I think it's an interesting era for sure. So Joey, after 3 weeks of retro wrestling, we got a WCW, an ECW, and a WWE. Who takes round one? What do you think was the best show out of the three that you watched? Out of the Nitro, the ECW TV, and the Saturday main event.
It's tough. Probably the ECW. I'm thinking. It's very possible for now.
I'm gonna go with ECW TV in this round. I think the Mikey Whipwreck Sabu match is fantastic, and yeah, I know it's kind of an ADD night. It's an APD pretty much hour of TV, but I liked it just because I felt like there was better quality in the matches and they showed some good moments. Like you said, WWE from the olden days and WCW are going to be grab bags, but what they do have going for them is they have like the classic characters, the Stings, the Ric Flairs, the Hulk Hogan's, the Macho Man, all those guys. But ECW had a pretty good caliber of matches. So I think round one goes to ECW. We're gonna kick it off again for the next episode. We're gonna dive deep into the WCW archives, and I think I picked a bad era of WCW. So it might be pretty bad, but it's Nitro 193 from May 31st, 1999. 99 WCW was pretty bad. So here's hoping we can find. I just picked it because it's Scott Steiner and Sting in a cage match, and I love me some Scott Steiner.
Yeah,
Especially
that'll be good.
The crazy version of Scott Steiner.
10 years later than this last show, so should be a little more recent. We're getting, so we'll report next week with how we feel about that one.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the retro wrestling of the week. We'll tweet out the episode, the Nitro episode details for you guys if you want to jump in and participate. Yeah, that's pretty much it right there with our retro wrestling, and now we've got kind of just wrapping up the show with some kind of where we at. We finished our 2 giveaways. I know one of the winners has their prize in hand, which was a pal by the name of Josh. He's at JTD24. He was pretty stoked. He did a little unboxing video, which made me pop. Kind of going through the stuff we sent him. So JTG, Josh, thank you for supporting the cause. I'm glad you enjoyed the stuff we sent out to you. Then our other pal, I don't know if he's received his his prize, but hopefully he has. I sent them both at the same time. And then we had our Finn Balor giveaway, right, Joey?
Yes, we did. And we had a lot of entries in that, and I want to thank everyone for their entries. And I'm sure we'll be doing some other giveaways down the line. It's just a question of figuring out what. But yeah, we had a winner for that Finn Balor basic figure. Heather is the winner of that.
Yeah.
That will be in the mail tomorrow.
At MHB Done won.
Okay.
She won the Finn Balor. Joey will be sending it from lovely freezing New York, upstate New York. And yeah, it was, I think we had like what, 70 something, 78 entrants.
Yeah, right around 80. Yeah, close to 80. So
So, I think that's pretty cool. I appreciate, everyone for supporting and retweeting and, following us with some of the crazy stuff we're doing. And I think the next one we'll do is the mystery minis that I had talked about last week. I will kind of figure out how we want to divvy those out. But I know I have a couple of Andres to give away, a Hulk Hogan, an Iron Sheik. So maybe I'll put them in pairs. Maybe I'll do like an Andre and a Sheik and an Andre and a Hogan. And we might give it away to two people. So yeah, I think we're going to do that. And I haven't thought about the dynamic as to how we're going to do it, but that's definitely in the next coming days. We'll tweet something out, right? Give it a little bit of, give it a week or so, and we'll send those out because, like I said last week when we did the mystery minis deal, I've got a ton of repeats that could use a home because they just bring back bad memories of opening repeats. So I think that's what we're going to do. In the meantime, keep following us at Talkin Gimmicks on Twitter, and we've got our email where you guys can send out feedback, comments, things you want to see, retro wrestling episode recommendations. The email's talkingimmicks@gmail.com. Joey, any other plugs? Anything else you want to plug for this week before we wrap up?
that should be it. Just support indie wrestling. If you got indie wrestling shows near you, just check them out. Local talent, they're trying to get exposure. So just help out wherever you can.
And that's a good point. Of course, we love our Ring of Honor and Chikara and some of the bigger, I would say, indies, but there's so many out there. And at the very least, give them a shot. If you like them, that's great. If you don't, you can move on. But I have the Reality Wrestling, which is Booker's promotion, which I've gone to a handful of times. I think he's doing some good things. I want to go because they have an ex Houston Texan who is now wrestling. I think it's Brennan Williams is the guy's name.
Interesting.
Yeah, that dude is. He's pretty awesome. Like the dude, he's been on some of the other podcasts with. He's been on Straight Shoot, and he's a big wrestling fan, and he's always been a big wrestling fan, even in his NFL days. And now he's training with Booker, and he's got this whole kind of samurai gimmick type deal. And I want to go check it out. I think I want to go check it out because I think that dude, he's got the build and the look, and he's got the push from Booker, and maybe we might see him, on NXT or something like that. So yeah, I think I might check that out. I don't think they're running anything this weekend, but probably next weekend for sure. So I'll probably check that out. And I know you have promotion up there by your neck of the woods, right? In Rochester.
Yeah, we got a couple of promotions. UPW here, actually. Which quick little fact: you never know who you're going to see coming out of indie shows because early 2000, I seen a guy named Brody Lee, which is now in the Wyatt family, known as Luke Harper, came out of this local company here in Rochester. So, I've seen him in little bingo halls with 15, 20 people. and now he's a part of the Wide family on WWE television. So you never know who you're going to see. Go out, support the local guys, local talent, local women, and support wrestling. That's about all.
Cool. So that does it for episode 3 of Talkin Gimmicks, which is, like I said, the backyard wrestling of podcasting. But yeah, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on email, and we will be coming back at you with another episode some point next week. Thank you guys for watching.